Can we even release this video?
Sorry?
Can we? I feel like we just discovered a trade secret.
On the Facebook ads subreddit, people are having a meltdown. Everybody's complaining that Meta is not working properly anymore. There's a couple of theories that we have as a team because we're not seeing this problem that everybody's complaining about. People are saying like their ads
Yeah.
are not spending. Yeah, like you've read the threads. I've been posting them on our Slack. What I want to do is I want to reach out to people and start asking them questions of, like people who are complaining that their ads are not running properly. I just want to get some people on so that we can start compiling a report and just see objectively what is the pattern. Is there some sort of pattern? Is there something that is up with their accounts? Is it something that they're setting up different? Or is it that, hey, they're actually setting up everything the same and it is some black box mystery thing? I don't think it's a black box mystery thing. I think, so this is what we were talking about before, right? I think personally, what's happening is that in the past, for the last like over a decade, right? The way you work with Meta in particular, the reason people liked it was because you could go in and you could start selecting like interests. You can target and basically take an ICP, take what you know about your business, and you can feed that information in and target people that way. Advantage Plus just doesn't work like that. Advantage Plus and PMax, right? They work with like we have all these data points on people. You just feed in your assets. The ideal thing is you want to find that, like you were talking about before, that Goldilocks zone where you step out of the way of the AI, let it figure itself out. Don't force it too much. And then you'll come up with who's going to interact with your content, essentially. I suspect what's happening is people are still fixed on their biases from the past, and they're trying to force this new system to find those interests and dig into the same customer persona that they've used in the past, that's worked for them in the past. But that actively fights against the way that the not LLM, sorry, if actively fights away against the way that the AI algorithm wants to work. And I think that's part of the issue, because they're they're
Yeah.
they're converting their biases, and they're like trying to pull the AI in a direction it doesn't want to go in.
So this leads to I agree all the way up until the fights against point, because I think that it's instead of fighting the algorithm, because I think like the algorithm is made to serve us and it's made to try to accomplish the goals that we set. So I don't know that it's pulling in a different direction. I think that you're basically leashing it, and you're saying you can't go in the direction, all of these other directions, only go in this direction, right? You're kind of pulling it and forcing it to go in one specific place. The the thing that I was going to say earlier, before we switched over to this, was we look at it. We like to take a step back. We look at the industry as a whole. One
Yep.
of the big things that we've seen, right, especially in the last few years, was crazy crackdowns on privacy.
Yes.
Those privacy concerns basically led to GA4, right, emerging from UA, and then
Right.
it evolved into all kinds of other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the crazy things that happened was Google doesn't retain data for very long anymore. You used to be able to keep data kind of forever, and now you keep data for 90 days on an audience. What this ends up meaning, I think, in a lot of instances, especially for Facebook, is that if you have an interest in camping because you're looking up camping supplies and things like that, or you're looking up campgrounds, I think it's going to list your interest in camping only for a limited amount of time. So if you
Oh.
are a company who is advertising and trying to get to that particular interest group, you're only going to be targeting people who enter that interest group at a certain part of the year. At the other parts of the year where privacy is no longer allowed to follow me, I'm still a camper at the end of the day, but you're no longer targeting me because you're pigeonholing yourself into a category, right? So the AI is not looking, but it could be.
So I wonder if that works well with Google, right? Because Google is generally targeting lower down in the funnel at the point of intent. And the point of intent, if you're actively looking for camping stuff, that means that your intent in that moment is camping. Even if you're a camper, 24/7 the rest of the year, there's going to be a finite amount of time when you're primed to buy camping stuff because you needed that point. Whereas on Facebook, we generally use Facebook to target top of funnel and interest. So if there's not enough continual interest throughout the year, like you don't know when that intent is gonna happen. And I wonder if that 90-day window is constraining it. Yeah.
I was gonna say it comes down to how both platforms are used, right? They're used so differently. On Google, I am there doing something. I have a goal when I go onto Google, right? I am actively searching for a thing. I'm actively looking at a thing that I want to be looking at, and I think that Google is so high intent based because everyone who goes there has like a mission basically.
Yeah.
I don't just go to Google search and click. I know they have that random button. I think I've clicked it once and been sorely disappointed and never done it again.
I think everybody has clicked
For
that
them,
random button once or twice when they first learned about it, and they're like, "Oh, that was neat. I'm never using this again."
yeah, what's the point of this? I'm not here for that. Whereas with Facebook, generally people are there to schmooze, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to socialize. I'm going to check up on people I know, or I got a notification. You scroll a little bit. So
I get a lot of
you're
random,
effectively
yeah, I get a lot of random Star Trek stuff that I keep interacting with, which leads to more Star Trek and more Star Wars stuff.
yeah. So now they're targeting you on that, but I think like the experience on Facebook is like to scroll and look around and window shop,
Yeah.
and so you
But
know
that,
the
but that's exactly it. That's why it does so well at the top of funnel. But that I think that's it, right? So like you, it only has the ability legally to keep that detail about you for 90 days. So if in 91 days I've stopped interacting with Star Trek stuff, does that suddenly disappear from my feed because I've moved on to the next thing that I'm now interested in? It doesn't mean I'm not interested in Star Trek anymore. It just means that okay, I'm kind of sick of it for now and I've moved on to something else. But that means that anything to do with Star Trek is not going to be able to target me for a minute.
and this is what I'm getting at, right? The way that we generally approach targeting on Meta specifically is that there's a lot of focus on reaching out to new audiences and getting new users in there of various and differing interest groups. And I get a lot of pushback from our clients on this, right? Where it's like, well, why are you targeting these people? Well, I'm like, well, they're kind of like sector adjacent and like we can kind of build out that way to gain client trust, and then once they trust in the types of campaigns that we're running, it's like, hey, we're going to actually broaden this even further because now, like I said, if I'm a camper, it's past 90 days, you're advertising on like lamps and stuff, I'm window shopping on Facebook, and my current designated interest by the algorithm is like Dungeons and Dragons, and I get shown a lamp and I click on it, all of a sudden I'm back in that interest group,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then that you
yeah.
can like really target me for a conversion.
So that's where I think the window shopping on marketplace is huge for the algorithm. So like if you're not thinking in terms of those, okay, we're selling camping gear. What's camping gear adjacent that this person is also going to be shopping for, right? I think that's a smart strategy. I wonder though, as we're talking, right, the 90-day window thing is really interesting because I wonder if, so just to step back, as we know, running ads, it's bidding and it's a race, and you don't have to have the highest bid, but you need to outbid the other people that are racing against you. So if your ad campaign is not spending enough to win that traffic, you have a 90-day window to train that AI. And if you're not collecting enough data in that 90 days, because you're not spending enough money, and because you're not capturing that traffic, it will never reach that tipping point where your algorithm learns how to be a winner. Like you're just everybody else in the race, basically.
Yeah.
I wonder if that might be part of it as well. Like I said, I think what I want to do is I want to sit down with you at one point and not to bias the interviews, but when I start reaching out to people to start collecting that data about how they're running their campaigns, I think I want to have a couple of checkpoints to look for. Because the other one that you brought up before was interesting, right? The what was it about the old campaigns that you said?
Yes, old campaigns being in an account having an effect on the ad account's algorithm. And basically, there's some sort of weight that's given to the type and number of campaigns that you've run in the past.
So you're talking
And I think
about
that
campaigns that have been disabled, they're not active, you ran it like a year ago and it's just sitting in your
yeah,
account.
yeah, they're non-deleted campaigns that are in the account, whether they're on and the timer has expired or they've been marked as off. And basically, traditionally, from my understanding, is that these have helped train accounts, just like in Google, right? Whatever campaigns you run in an account. And this, we tell people, don't run a campaign for something random in your account that is trying to have like a very specific purpose, because you're now training the algorithm to do something different. And you don't really want to do that. So traditionally you want to keep these around, and yeah, it's data, but we don't necessarily look at it, and that's a whole thing about me and archiving data. But now what we're noticing, and I have like proof from we've talked to several people about it, who had like a few hundred of these campaigns lying around in their account, and they deleted like I think the number was like 150 old campaigns that they're like, you know what, we're never touching this again. It's a few years old. And they instantly saw 10 to 15% gains in
Oh,
conversions.
okay, so
Well,
just cleaning up the
they
account.
changed nothing else. It was just deleting these old campaigns. And they're like, oh, well, what's going on here? And basically it's telling us there's an amount, there's a Goldilocks amount to keep, right? It's like how much, you know, we're talking about overfitting, and it's like, well, you don't want to overfit with this algorithm, and you don't want to undertrain either. So like, what is the ideal amount of camp? And I don't think anyone knows what that
Well,
number is.
no, that's going to be proprietary to Meta. Like no one's ever going to know. Like the only thing that we can do is
I think we could figure it out. I think we could actually test it, and
we
it's
can
like,
say
okay,
like
well,
don't have more
try
than X
doing.
number of campaigns that are X
Yeah,
days.
don't have more than, you know, I would even, I think it's probably pretty low. I think the algorithms are, yeah, they're complex because they're looking at a lot of things, but the way that they work is very simple, right? It's very straightforward in a sense. It's a mathematical equation. So I think that that's probably something like, I want to say between 20 and 50 campaigns is probably like, that's my gut instinct of like just enough history and probably covers like a year and a half worth of actual time
So
for most
okay.
markets.
So as you were talking, I think that I it just triggered something. One of the things that I'm seeing as well that becomes like a repeated talking point is that people are complaining like I've been running this campaign for X number of months, like for over a year, and it's always been performing. And I'm thinking that that's the only campaign that they have, and that has overfit like crazy. Like we never run campaigns
Yeah,
for that long. That's insane.
no, you
And
can't.
even if they're changing up the creatives in a biased campaign that's already overfit because of the previous data is not going to move the needle at all. And I wonder if that's what's happening because a lot of people are saying like, I don't understand. I'm testing all these new creatives, blah, blah, blah. But if they're running it under the same campaign the entire time and they only have that one campaign that they're like, well, this performed in the past. I wonder if that's part of the
I
issue.
building on that idea, if that campaign is overfit and then you create a new campaign, your new campaign will also perform poorly because it's using data from the overfit campaign.
That's a
So
good
you would
point.
actually have to
Yeah.
delete that.
Yeah.
You've now wasted that full year in a sense, and then you have to start building a bunch of other data into the account
Yeah.
to retrain it.
So basically, like people are just not understanding because they're running ads and the way that they did before, they never had to train an AI algorithm or an AI um, an AI model before. So
But they've been
yeah,
doing it by
they're
instinct.
probably training it wrong because they don't understand how their data impacts the training and how the platform's using that information.
Can we
Okay,
even release this video?
sorry.
Can we? I feel like we just discovered a trade secret.
We
Can't
can,
talk
well,
about
we don't
this.
have we have no backing. We're just like we're speculating right now. I would say let's
Okay.
release this video, and then once I have those conversations and I build the report, then we can see like how much of this is right. And then if it is a trade secret, then we just delete this video.
Okay, great.
Thanks for watching. Please take a minute to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. If you need help with any of your marketing stuff, check us out at drivemarketing.ca and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.